The Ravens serve, shall we say, poetic justice to the Bengals 34-20 in a game that was not that close in Maryland. Now, Baltimore improves to 8-3. They're currently the number 2 seed in the American Football Conference, bird-dogging the Chiefs, who close out Week 11 as they take on the Eagles in the Monday night game. Cincinnati, they are now 4-5, but the better story is in the losing locker room, or should we say the losing injury tent? Because that's where you will find Joe Burrow. Yeah, this is the story of the night. The Bengals quarterback, the early report, the sprained right wrist. The injury forced him out of the game and expected to be out for an extended period of time. Burrow hurting his wrist probably several days ago, but in this game, he exited in the second quarter right after throwing a touchdown pass to Joe Mixon that gave the Bengals the lead 10-7. Now, once I saw Joe Burrow go into the injury tent, I said, that's it. I'm done. My bet is over. I had no chance. No chance. All right, so the Ravens win. They were given the game once Burrow got hurt. So let us discuss the question. Where is the Maller worry-o-meter for Joe Burrow's wrist? So on the Maller worry-o-meter, 1 to 10, this is a 9.0. 9.0 on the Maller worry-o-meter. I've got Lizzo, piñatas, and a T-Rex stuffed animal. And we'll combine all of these things together, and we're going to get you some anxiety meds if you like the Bengals or you happen to have Joe Burrow as your fantasy quarterback. So, we're at a solid 9 because even if this is not a season-ending injury, the Burrow injury, they have no margin for error, right? Even if Burrow can come back this season, if he's missing multiple games and they were to lose those games, that's all she wrote. As of now, the Bengals' playoff hopes are on life support. When you look at their record against AFC opponents, they're just a 500 team. You are what your record says you are. They have a faint pulse. But if Burrow's playing, that's a little more than a faint pulse because Burrow's capable of going on a Burrow burner. There's no such thing as momentum, but he can play consistently well for a period of time. And Lizzo, of all people, has entered the chat. She's warming up her vocal cords right now, and she's looking at the song sheet. And the song sheet there says, "Turn out the lights, the party's over." Backup Jake Browning for Cincinnati. Now, that is actually Yiddish. Browning is Yiddish for can't play. He looks like your standard ham and egger. Whoever your definition of a bad quarterback is, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, Kenny Pickett, none of these guys can play. He's a Jag, but not a Jacksonville Jag, just a guy. Just a guy. Now, to answer the question, why did the Bengals have no other options? Right? Why do they not have a better backup quarterback on the roster? Well, the simple answer is they cost money to pay a backup quarterback. The Bengals are notoriously frugal. But also, I always go back in these situations to the great Tom Moore, was with the Indianapolis Colts for a long time, been around the NFL as an offensive coordinator. I think he's mostly retired. He's a consultant these days. But he was asked a question years ago about Peyton Manning. And I'm going to parrot his response. I'm going to change it up for the modern story that we're talking about. But the question would be, why do backups not get more reps, right? Does a guy like Jake Browning not get more opportunity in practice? And a guy like Tom Moore would say, fellas, if number 9 goes down, we're porked, and we don't practice porked. I'd like to alert all the affiliates, that was a radio edit. He used a different word than porked. I cleaned it up. But the Bengals would be bacon. Bengal bacon. And I'll bet you someplace at a hotel in Los Angeles, Carson Wentz is whimpering, wishing, if I'd only waited another couple of weeks, I would have gone to Cincinnati. But no, I was stuck with the Rams. All right, turning the page. So pundits are already speculating that the Bengals are in deep doo-doo, that they're going to get essentially court-martialed by the NFL because of Joe Burrow's injury. Now, why is that? Some video was bouncing around the echo chamber of social media. It has been deleted. It was deleted shortly after it was posted. The posting by the Cincinnati football team on social media is getting some into a lather. You see, if you haven't seen this, in the clip, for our blind listeners, in the clip, Joe Burrow can be seen getting off the Bengals team bus. Well, who cares about that, right? I mean, I've gotten off a bus. I'm sure you've probably gotten off a bus at some point in your life. But he was wearing some kind of brace or protective sleeve, something, on his right hand. And in the week leading up to this game, Burrow, let me check the Bengal injury report, and we'll go page down. No. Joe Burrow not on the Bengals injury report. Whoa. Now, the NFL, they claim they have no room for this kind of nonsense, these kind of shenanigans. They take these injuries very seriously. So, the question, what kind of punishment are the Bengals going to get for circumventing the NFL injury list and hiding the Burrow injury? So Cincinnati, here's what's going to happen for their coaching staff, the front office. They will be human piñatas. Human piñatas. That's public shaming. The cover-up is worse than the crime. If only Joe Burrow had stayed healthy, nobody would have known about this. But the NFL is a conduit to gambling. Right? They're a pipeline to gambling. That is the financial bonanza for the NFL. You can't watch an NFL game. And I love gambling. Listen, I do a gambling show on television on the weekends. I love gambling, but like every other commercial, gambling. So expect the Bengals to be fined, and Zach Taylor will also be fined. This happened a few years ago. Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, not exactly the same, but Ben Roethlisberger was the quarterback at the time, and he didn't show up on the injury report, but he was hurt, and so the NFL dinged the Steelers. Now, it's a little different because gambling is much more prevalent now than it was 4 years ago. However, the Bengals are not a regular in this world, so it's not like they have a track record. They're not like Draymond Green, where they've got a lot of recidivism. So I'm going to say that they're going to get a fine, and that's it. Now, the last word here. Let's go to the winning locker room. The game itself, not really a good talker, because once Joe Burrow got hurt, the Ravens, they were given the game. Right, here you go, take it. But there is a big storyline with Baltimore. Tight end Mark Andrews, his season kaput, bupkis, over, finito, Dunskies. For Mark Andrews, he suffered a left ankle injury on the opening drive. John Harbaugh announcing after the game that this is a big deal and season ender. Season ender against Harbaugh. Season ender for Andrews, according to Harbaugh. So, put into words how big a loss Mark Andrews is for the Ravens, who are cooking right now at 8-3. So, the way I would describe it, it's like flashing back to when you were 6 years old and you went on a road trip with the family, and you were on a JetBlue plane, and you left your favorite T-Rex stuffed animal on the plane, and you were really upset. This is a devastation situation. The reason it's a devastation situation is because Mark Andrews is Lamar Jackson's safety blanket. He's his blankie, right? When in doubt, throw the ball out to Mark Andrews. The numbers are redonkulous with these two. Andrews gets over 30% of all the targets. He's the top pass catcher in every category from Lamar Jackson since they both came into the NFL. And the name that will pop up, and we'll throw it out right now, right? We'll try to get ahead of the mainstream. The Ravens could look for a diamond in the rough, but the obvious connection here is Rob Gronkowski. Will the Ravens be able to convince Rob Gronkowski to come back? Developing hot, ... Now, Gronkowski will likely flirt with the Ravens. He likes to do that. But ultimately, I've looked at him, and he's a little thin. little thin. Got to fatten him up. I don't think he's anywhere close to being able to play. Even if he wanted to come back, I don't think he'd be making much of an impact based on what I've seen of his podcast shenanigans and whatnot. But this actually, I'm going to be Benny Brightside here for a second. I want to be Benny Brightside for the Ravens because there is a dimension in the Twilight Zone where this ends up a blessing. And let me tell you why. Because Lamar Jackson is going to have to get over his crutch, or the Ravens are on a kamikaze mission here. It's not going to work. Lamar's had a blind spot. Right? He doesn't trust his receivers. Maybe his receivers blow. I don't know. But he's so dependent on throwing to Mark Andrews that it becomes a net negative. When you play the Ravens, you know where the ball is going to go, and he doesn't really spread it around. So in that dimension in the Twilight Zone, Lamar is going to have to share the sugar. And that's not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing. That's a positive thing if you're going to do the waltz, the playoff waltz, and get to Vegas for the Super Bowl.